Hello, everyone. And I just am on to tell you that this show that you're about to see was sensational with James Brown. Normally, we're live on Wednesday nights at 7:30. We did it on Tuesday this week at 7:30 to accommodate James Brown. But I suggest you're really going to enjoy this conversation with James Brown. He was terrific. We talked about the show, the NFL today. We talked about his career. We talked about the Eagles, obviously, how he looks at them. And the one thing that I neglected to do was give you a question for the giveaway, which is a Ryan Howard autographed baseball. The question: what figure skaters did James Brown interview when he covered hockey? Again, thanks for watching. I suggest you watch this show. It's coming up now. And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. The King speaks, whatever you want to say. Charles Barkley. I always say the King speaks because Charles doesn't like the fact that I just call it the Howard Eskin Show. Well, that's who I am. But whatever. A special night tonight for a special guest. Normally we're on Wednesdays. We're doing it live. Now you can see it from now until eternity. But we're doing it live on Tuesdays. And I'll get to my guest in a second. It's special, and I'm like blown away with all the things that he's done. I knew he did a lot, but I didn't know he did a lot. And that would be James Brown. All right. First of all, let me thank my presenting sponsor, and that would be Stillwell Financial Advisors. Jeff Stillwell knows his stuff. The world changes so much with financial things. You want to make sure that you're set up down the line, down the road, and Jeff Stillwell can really, really help you out. He really knows his stuff. Great guy, and he's a great guy. Give him a call and just, kind of check it out and see what you think. 732-343-0813. All right. Coming up after James, there's so many things to talk about. There's a player who was a former Eagle who was cut, and I know there'll be people clamoring for him. Baseball has, I don't know if they're going to have the players play as computers. You'll get AI to be the players. They're doing something else to the game. We'll talk about that. And Drew Brees did not endear himself to Philadelphia Eagles fans, and I'm shocked. I'm shocked that there's not an Eagles fan that's going to like him. And before we get to James, let me tell you, and you only have a week left for this great deal at Audi Westchester. Whenever I go in there, I have fun, talk to all the people, grab a cup of coffee, grab something to eat, but only basically a week left for this sale for the electric vehicle, the Audi Q6 e-tron. It's $499 a month, which you're never going to get this deal again because the tax credits, for one thing, are going to go away after this month. The Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. You'll need $5,295 down for the Q6, $4,156 down for the Q4 plus taxes and registration fees. Stop by Audi Westchester for more details. See the all-new facility. And I'm telling you, it's fun in there, and it's fun to look at a new vehicle, a new car. And they have pre-owned if you want that too. 1421 Wilmington Pike, but a great deal on the electric cars. And the inventory is very sparse right now on the electric cars at Audi Westchester. So I would not hesitate. The 2025 Audi Q6, $499 a month. The Q4, $399 a month. Check out AudiWestchester.com. And you want to shape up your property. Make it look nice when you have guests. And Piazza Property Pros can do that for you, whether it's a pool, whether it's a fire pit, whether it's a hot tub, whatever it is they can do. Landscaping, hardscaping, fencing, pool maintenance, build a pool. Don't hesitate because you want it to be ready for next summer. 25 years of experience. And they don't subcontract, which is really, really important. Give them a call. And they'll talk to you and kind of find out what's within your budget. 610-566-2608, 610-566-2608. Call for a free consultation. Free. I said free. Some companies don't give you a free consultation, or check them out at piazzaoutdoor.com. All right. I was so pleased when my guest tonight said yes. He said yes, and he's such a great guy, and I did not realize everything he's done, and that would be James Brown, who right now is the host of the NFL Today on CBS. James, you are you have done it all. Hey, listen, as a sportscaster, I cover all the sports because I have to, but you covered them. You didn't cover them. You worked them. I was surprised when I saw hockey. You worked hockey, you worked basketball, and I understand that, and we'll get to that. You worked baseball, and now you work football. It's just, I'd say, and it's on, and you're in so many Hall of Fames, and that's really good. And obviously, we see the Emmys behind you. It is a real pleasure. It just, how did you get involved in so many sports? Obviously, you love sports. How did you get involved in so many sports at a network level?
Well, hey, Howard, do you remember? Well, first of all, can I just thank your guy, Joe, again, Jimmy, right?
Gen Jemmy, yes.
First of all, can I thank him because he's working with such an old schooler. Even when people say, JB, do you know how to tweet? I think about getting like 12 pigeons with little scratches of paper to send a message that way. Joe was incredible. I know it's second nature, it's elementary for him, but I thank him very much because I wanted to be on time for this.
That's my production guy, right?
Oh, absolutely. And number two, with your relationship with is it Piazza? What's the pool company?
Yeah. They are related to the baseball player.
Oh my
different
God.
level cousins. Yeah.
We'll talk afterwards because we've got some renovation work to do on our pool here, and I would love to get an estimate for them. I'll put their guys up to drive from Philadelphia down to the Maryland area to do that. So
okay,
I get that little plug in. But hey, Howard, it's interesting because you remember the commercial. You and I are old enough to remember the cereal commercial, and I forget what the cereal was, where the mother put a new box of cereal on the table. The two older kids were skeptical, and they said, give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything. He'll try anything. That was the attitude that I had based on advice given to me by Frank Gleber, God bless him, CBS, and Vern Lundquist, who said, never turn down an assignment because if you can read the rule book, you can do well in a given sport. And I did not want to be colonized, if you will, by doing just basketball, which of course was my sport, despite the size and girth, Howard, that you've seen me blow up and down with on TV. I wanted to do that. So I did that. I did figure skating. I did rock climbing. I did water polo. And yes, Howard, I love your reference to hockey because when I was at Fox and the boss said, look, we're going to acquire hockey. And the research shows that they want to have a bigger footprint in the lower 48, and if they could make it more urban. So we like to have you be the host. I'm like, are you kidding me? So Howard, they introduced me to the national press after a summer of studying the rules and how to pronounce all of the names properly, and knowing that I would only do a pregame show, would not do hockey. You know, heavens, hockey announcers are the best in the world. All of the guys are asking me questions. JB, do you know what icing is? Howard, I explained what that was. They said, JB, do you know what a two-line pass is? Howard, I'd explain that. The third guy says, well, do you know how they substitute in hockey? I said, yes, line shifts. I said, fellas, look, let's take the veneer off of the questions. I get what you're asking. So let me be clear. No, hockey wasn't big in my neighborhood. And the only thing I have in common with the sport is the color of the puck. But I promise you that I will be an excellent ambassador for the sport, and not even name dropping, because these are the guys who they really are great ambassadors for the sport, from Wayne Gretzky to Mike Modano. What was the big kid's name who played there in Philadelphia? Probably didn't pan out to be as good as everybody thought.
Lindros, Eric Lindros.
Yeah, Eric Lindros, exactly. But they were wonderful in helping me to understand the sport so that I could represent it well. And it is one of the best experiences in person to see the how excellent they are on the ice, you know, the blades against the ice and all. And they're gifted athletes. So that was fun.
All right. Well, you attended college at Harvard. So you're a smart guy, obviously. You got to have some brains to get into Harvard. They just don't take great athletes. I
Mm.
say great athletes. But you were all Ivy in basketball, from what I understand, at Harvard. Is that correct?
I was. Hmm.
Okay. So you played basketball, and didn't you try out for an NBA team? Didn't you make an attempt at a tryout for an NBA team?
And actually, what you're flirting around the edges and talking about that from that experience really is what crystallized what my work ethic has been since then. Howard, I played basketball here at the high school level real quickly for the great Morgan Wooten at
Oh,
DeMatha
yes,
High
yes.
School. DeMatha was one of the best and still is programs in the entire country. The year before I went there, actually a couple years before I went there, that basketball team defeated Power Memorial, which I don't think is in existence anymore in New York, and they beat the great then named Luau Sendor, aka Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, snapping that 71 game win streak of Power Memorial. I went there afterwards, but all the big guys that graduated, we had to play zone defense. I was in the middle. We still finished with a 27-3 record. And while I was blessed to get over 150 scholarship offers, my parents, God bless them, continue to drive home the notion, not atypical for many of us growing up in that era. JB, we want you to be the best student that you can get, can be, and go to the best college that you can get in. And when I got a letter from Harvard, I said, you know what? If I can get in, that's where I'm going to go, because I watched Bill Bradley and his teams at
Yep.
Princeton and how they did well in the NCAA tournaments. Jimmy McMillan and Hayward Dotson up at Columbia. So I'm saying, you know what? It can be done. It didn't materialize with us being the best as we should have during very difficult political times, political and social difficulties during that time. But I would still do it again.
All right. So now you've been with, and I'm going to ask you how you chose football, but the NFL today celebrated their 50-year anniversary, and you guys, watch this, you guys got dressed up, and yeah,
Hey,
it
hey,
just,
how did you
it,
like the Samuel L. Jackson hairdo there?
oh, jeez, it was stunning. It was stunning.
And you're
So,
being real polite, Howard. I love you, buddy.
okay, and then your coworkers,
Oh my
who I
God.
know, I
Look
don't
at
know
your boy
Nate
Bill
Burleson.
Cowher. And look at Matty Ice. Now,
I,
Nate Burleson, we would have expected to him sartorial splendor and excellence is what he always displays, across the spectrum. He covers it all. But Bill Cowher and Matty Ice, oh my gosh.
Well, Bill Cowher never had that much hair,
I
and
hear you.
Matty Ice was never. Matt Ryan was never. I don't ever remember him being blonde. Who decided in makeup to make him a
And you
blonde?
know what? He said his youngest son, they've got twins and a young boy, I
I
think
know.
2 years of age. And his wife called up Sarah and said, oh my gosh, our youngest son is blonde. And if he ever decided to grow a mustache and hair out like that, thank you for letting us see what it would look like, because he ain't going to be like that. And that's me. She doesn't talk like that. I added a little twist to it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, how did you choose, James? How did you, with all the different sports, and you played basketball? So,
Hmm.
how did you really end up? And now you've been 20 years with the NFL Today pregame show. I believe that's the correct number of years. How did you end up with football?
No, and you're absolutely correct. And that 20 years, believe it or not, Howard, that's on my second go around. The first time at CBS, when I was one of the then young announcers, I was there for 10 years. Pat O'Brien, of course, Jim Nance, etc. Part of that young and up and coming announcer group. You will recall CBS had virtually everything. There was no way that they could maintain that kind of inventory with baseball, Major League Baseball, with the NFL, with college hoops, which they got in 1982, with all the sports that they had. But when
Right.
they lost the NFL contract, which Fox won for that, I was just hoping to get on board as one of the lower team announcers, because I had started my play-by-play career at CBS doing all of the losing teams, Howard, to craft and
Right.
hone my skills, because basketball, the NBA was there. I was supposed to take over the show that became Inside Stuff that Ahmad Rashad and I teased. Here,
Right.
Ahmad Rashad was well known for football, of course, having played pros. I
Yep.
was looking for basketball, and we wound up switching, if you will, when we lost the NBA. So I had no choice that if I was going to stay at the network level, as my executive producer told me, you need to learn football. I went out to then named Redskins Park, worked with the great Bobby Mitchell, the Hall of Famer, God bless him.
Yep.
He taught me the game. My first football game I got to do with CBS was a game played at Tampa Stadium. Tampa was hosting the Atlanta Falcons, and they told me, JB, this will be your first opportunity to do it. Just call a clean game. Don't try to get fancy. Keep it basic. Howard, I went through the first half, and I'm thinking, man, football is not that difficult. Howard, cockiness or complacency leads to that precipitous slide
Yep.
down the abyss. So come third quarter, I made the mistake when I was talking about James Wilder, a running back. He's at the 40, he's at the 45, he's at the 50, he's at the 55-yard line. He's tackled at the 55-yard line. My producer got in my ear, JB, there's no such thing as a 55-yard line. Go to commercial. And then I made the mistake. I was supposed to look at the TV monitor that we had to make sure the time was correct. I was so shook up, I looked up at the stadium clock. It was incorrect. I didn't know that. I said, we're going to step aside for a quick timeout with 8 minutes and 99 seconds left in the third period of play. We'll be back. Compounded the mistake. Thank goodness when we came back from commercial, my buddy Dan Jiggets, who played pro football in the USFL and with the Chicago Bears, he said, for those of you who heard JB say 8 minutes and 99 seconds left in the third period of play, he just wanted to see if you could do the mathematical conversion to realize he meant to say 9 minutes and 39 seconds left. But you know what? Thank goodness that game was only being televised to the TV truck under the stadium and the local Piggly Wiggly store around the corner, and it gave me opportunities beyond that. I never made that mistake again.
You know what? I'm going to give you a quick story. Jim Nance, who is beyond excellent in what he does, and he obviously does so many sports. Back in, I believe it was 1985, I saw a tape of Jim. I was working at Channel 3. I was a sports director, which at that time was NBC. And I saw Jim Nance's tape, and we were looking for a weekend guy. So I got in touch with him. He came to town, came to Philadelphia. We spent the day together. And I thought, this guy is really good. He's really good. And our news director didn't think, I don't know he's good enough for us.
Really?
Yes. Jim will tell you that if you ever talk to Jim, he'll tell you the story. He remembers it. So I've stayed in touch with him for a week to 10 days. I said, Jim, I'm still trying. 3 weeks later, after he got turned down for the job, he got the job with CBS.
And what did the news director say then?
The news director he had lockjaw. He had lockjaw.
No, Jim Nance, he was superb. Then you remember Roy Firestone.
Absolutely.
Roy Firestone, Jim Nance, myself, and Pat O'Brien, and a few others who were auditioning for jobs at CBS when they were making a decision to take a lot of what Brent had been doing to spread it around. And then he left, of course, from there. There was no question that Jim Nance was excellent. Still is. He is the face and voice of CBS. And the guy is just superb. Look, when we had Brent Musburger on last week,
I saw
Fullback Show, Howard, his recall is second to none. He's 86 years of age, and he was on point, did not need a script, did not have a script, and was just sensational. But I saw that firsthand when I was at CBS the first time around for 10 years, and working many events with him as a sideline reporter.
Well, as an aside, Jim Nance, the tape he did a studio show for BYU football. So when I saw that, and I see the way he did an interview, I never consider an interview. It's a conversation.
Absolutely.
It's a conversation. If you do an interview, then it's boring.
I'm with the pro right now, which is exactly, we're having a conversation.
So when I saw that tape, I said, this guy is good. I just love the fact that he treated it as a conversation. Now, I obviously what's happened to him is sensational, and we stay in touch, and he's just I can't say enough good things about him. Now, we have somebody in the chat room that asked the question, and I'm going to pass it along to you. who were some of your influences, mentors in broadcasting?
Well, in local television, the names they wouldn't know, they're more than likely in Philadelphia. Jim Vance, who was a local news anchor with
I
NBC.
remember in Washington because knowing George Michael and Jim Mance was the anchor there at WRC, right?
And they were sensational. He took the time to take me out to lunch to give me some encouragement when I was the analyst for the then named Washington Bullets. Clearly, Glenn Brenner, who was, I think, the first $1 million local sports anchor who I worked with at the CBS affiliate in Washington, D.C. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but
no, go ahead,
I want to throw
Glenn
this
Brenner,
in.
yeah.
Glenn Brenner, I worked with at a rock and roll station when George Michael was a disc jockey at WFIL radio.
Love it.
He was doing news and he was driving the Prize Patrol. It was called the Prize Patrol when you follow people. So I knew Glenn, and may he rest in peace. Glenn was terrific, but I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So you knew his sense of humor. Hey,
yes,
Howard, that's what he did. He had all of those casual sports fans who really didn't know anything about sports, but because he had this natural, quick wit, they rallied to him. But he and George Michael were neck and neck.
I know.
Because George, of course, was the consummate detail guy. He invested money with the station and all the satellites. He would bring you highlights from around the globe. So they were neck and neck in that regard. But Glenn Brenner, as I mentioned, Jim Vance, and the guy who gave me my start in television, there's a movie made about him, and it's called Talk to Me. He was in when the riots broke out around the country here in D.C. The two people who kept the calm, tried to keep as much calm as possible, were Petey Green, who had his own show in D.C., and James Brown, the soul singer. Those two got on the radio and on TV to keep things as calm as possible. But those were the big names of people who got me started in terms of encouraging me. Clearly, I owe an awful lot to the people at the CBS affiliate who gave me my opportunity. Ron Townsend, who was a general manager, Sandra Butler-Jones, a program manager, and Endicott, Betty Endicott, who was a news director. They gave me my opportunity to learn and cut my teeth in a top 10 market, not having known anything about television. Mm-hmm.
There's actually somebody remembered the color of the Prize Patrol here on the chat line. It's just crazy. And I want to thank Chris for the question, because obviously it brings back memories for all of us. I remember George Michael was the first guy. I was spinning records for George and a guy named Jim O'Brien. And I came back from a Phillies game, and they were raising money for charity on the weekend. And I started talking to George, and he says, I'm going to put you on the air. And when he heard me talk about the game, he said, that's really good. George offered me a job in Washington at one time, but that was later. That was after I had a TV job. But the other guy, George Michael, who was there, or Jim O'Brien, who was there, said, you should be in TV. And I said, nah, I'm not comfortable with TV. But it's amazing, the things you remember back that kind of grow, that the way you grew through the business. And it's so interesting to people. You just hope. And I explained some of these stories. I got a doctorate last year at Goldie Beacom College in Wilmington.
Congratulations, Howard. Wow.
Awesome. Thanks. What I tried to explain to those people is I came up from just a little guy making $1.60 an hour at one time at one of my first radio stations. And I didn't care. All I cared about is getting better, keep on working my way up. And if you just have that, you will get there. You might not go the road that you want to go, but you will get there at some point. You just got to be responsible.
And don't you appreciate the road to the top, if you will, and all that you had to learn? Hey, look, that entailed me, as you were teasing, and I certainly took it for real, doing hockey, doing figure skating. I mean, figure skating. Hey, one of the toughest interviews I've ever done was with Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding. I mean, these were two like diminutive athletes, but you could cut the thickness in the room when I was doing that interview. This is when I was with Fox. it was absolutely the toughest. But coming up that road helped me to be prepared for opportunities like working with 60 Minutes. But that was a result of working on Bryant Gumbel's HBO's Real Sports with Bryant
Yep.
Gumbel. One of the best. Certainly, I learned a lot from him. He and Ted Koppel, who I took notes from at the national level and got to become friends with, taking notes from them to see how they perform their craft. And one of the best things I think I learned that I passed on to younger folks today is if you understand and internalize and excel in the mechanics of a broadcast, whatever role you have, whether it's studio host, if it's sideline reporter, if it's play-by-play, master the mechanics. You can cover anything, entertainment, politics, news, or sports. You can cover the gamut with that. And certainly Nate Burleson is showing that on our show, a gifted young guy, to say the least, who brings a lot of, suave and intelligence and an understanding across the spectrum from young to old. You can do anything with that backdrop.
Yeah, there's no question. It's just you work hard, you're responsible, you do things, and you can do anything. You really can. All right, let me get into the nuts and bolts of football. The Eagles didn't play the cleanest game. I said they were fortunate on Sunday, and then the fans just jump all over me. But
hold on, what did the fans say to you? For how did they jump on you? For how?
They won the game. I mean, they came back and they won the game.
I see what you're saying. Okay,
yeah, they came back and won the game. Well, there was a touchdown taken away, and you guys get to see in the studio. You guys get to see all the games. Obviously, you're watching them after the pregame show to do the postgame show, but there was a touchdown taken back on a penalty that was a penalty, but a lot of times it's not called a 2-yard run. On a hold, the center goes down and grabs the legs of one of the defensive linemen. But so that happened. 2 blocked field goals. Now you got to say, okay, they blocked the field goals. But you also have to say, once they got a 1-point lead, the other team drove right down the field to about the 25-yard line, and they needed a stop, and they didn't get it. And then the blocked field goal happened. So they jumped on me. Well, they were fortunate. Hey, they won the game, and I get all that. But how did you look, or how do you look at the Eagles right now?
You know what? First of all, Howard, and I'm not saying this to be gratuitous, platitudinous, any of those things. Look, you've probably forgotten more football than I'll ever know. No, and I'm not. I'm being very honest. My role is to make certain I understand the big picture. I've been an athlete, including in the martial arts and baseball and all. So I get what being an athlete is all about. The Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. They're going to get the best punch from everybody they play, period. That's just the name of the game. However, I've learned enough from coaches I've worked with and players, sharp ones, that to understand, even more so in today's football, the rules are different. Preseason, they hardly play the starters for various reasons, injury, the kind of money they're making, etc. They hardly play them. So Bill Cowher, Tony Dungy, the coaches I have a lot of respect and relationship with, by the way, both of them having worked on Marty Schottenheimer's staff, God bless them, from the Kansas City Chiefs. Their point is you're really learning your team, number one, or in this case, developing some consistency and unity because the guys haven't played. So they're going to look a little disjointed, lacking the continuity and the sharpness that they would at the end of the season. So the first month of the season, Bill Cowher said this specifically, his aim was, and then he presented the stats to show me over his 15-year career of coaching the Steelers that the numbers bore out. He wanted to be 2-2 at the end of the first 4 weeks of the season. 2-2 because you're learning about the team, but you still have to win. Every fan, the fans are so much more knowledgeable now. They know if you start 0-2, that there's a 25% chance you can make it to the postseason. 0-3, a 2% chance of making it. So you still have to win while learning what you have. And I did listen to the defensive coordinator's press conference a little bit ago as well, too. The fans are a lot smarter and sharper, but the bottom line is I think offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, head coaches are some of the smartest in the league, even if fans don't give them that credit. So the bottom line is the Eagles are going to get the best shot of everybody they play. But here's the deal. John Madden told me this, and I forgot it last year when somebody pressed me on TV to pick a winner between Kansas City and Philly. How could I blow this? I said, okay, Kansas City, because they were the defending champions. Coach Madden said, you build a team from the inside out. You need the Broad Street bullies, pun intended, on both the defensive line and offensive line. Everything else builds around them. Guess what? They still have that, even given that the Eagles are in last place right now against, in terms of their run defense. That, excuse the vernacular, that ain't going to be the case throughout the rest of the season. They will adjust, but they still have got the baddest boys in the trenches right now, and everything else. Jalen Hurts may be criticized because he's not a prolific. He does whatever the team needs. Saquon Barkley is still there. The wide receivers who did come through down the stretch with both Brown and Devontae, look, they're still going to be in the mix. And don't forget, now people may criticize on a national level, the coaching staff knows what it's doing. So until they get dethroned and look horrible, I still can't bet against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, well, the fans are just beautiful. Last year, after 4 games, they were ready to fire Nick Sirianni. They were 2-2. Okay, okay. Now their target, it's usually the quarterback or the head coach, but now their target is the offensive coordinator. And I think Kevin Patullo is a very sharp, intelligent guy.
Yes.
They talk over in their meetings with Jalen Hurts and the other offensive coaches and the head coach. The meetings used to be on Thursday. I don't know if they're still on Thursdays, but whatever. They talk about what Jalen's comfortable with, what they think will work, and they go through all that. And now the fans, because there's not the success that they see, and the reason the Eagles opened it up the second half, that's not the way they want to play. They opened it up because they had to. Because they're down by so many points. But it's amazing how the fans just bury this offensive coordinator, and I think he's a really sharp guy. It's unbelievable.
I second that. Patullo, look, he has what it takes. All he's going to have to show is that he's got the Philly grit and toughness to weather the storm. Same thing with what the folks are going through there in New York. Hey, look, they were all over Brian Dable and the rest of Start the Kid, Jackson Dart. Hey, Howard, you know the game exceedingly well. So my question is, and it still pertains to the Eagles, but I'm using the Giants as an example here. What was the game plan with Russell Wilson all along before, and when was the game plan originally constructed to say we're going to develop Jackson Dart and bring him in at this point in time? Is this what the game plan was? So, or is it now time to take and break the glass and pull out the hatch, the hatchet, if you will, because if a fire, you got to tear the door? Is that, well, what happens? This is a tough stretch they've got coming up the next 3 games. Suppose it doesn't pan out. Are you running the risk? The kid is tremendously talented, but there's a lot more that goes into the assessment of whether or not this is the time, but fans play a large part in that role. I like the philosophy that Green Bay has been running for years. They bring in a talented quarterback. Howard, you remember it years ago, the starting they draft the quarterback with the intent of starting him. He carried a clipboard for the first 1, 2, or 3 years before he got in. That's what Green Bay has done first with Brett Favre. When he was behind Don Majkowski, and then when Aaron Rodgers came in, he was behind Brett Favre. Jordan Love, the same kind of thing. And look at the success that they're having. I may be old school, but that template seems to work. Give Mr. Patullo an opportunity to weather the storm, because you know what? Everybody is shooting for him, and I think he's a talented, smart guy. And as long as the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, Harry Roseman, and the rest of the company know they got the right guy in place, fine. Let me close with this. Chuck Noll, I'm going back just to substantiate this. Chuck Noll, when he was made the head coach by the Steelers, his first year, he was 1-12, 1-13. Howard, the number is. And at the end of that first year, the reporter was asking Mr. Rooney, hey, are you going to fire the guy? He clearly hasn't gotten it done. Mr. Rooney's comment was, I now know even more so I've got the right guy for the job. What do you need for that? Because he weathered the storm. He stayed with the plan and the process. He's going to be okay. 4 Super Bowls later, I think he knew what he was doing. 3 coaches in 57 years or whatever, he knew what he was doing. Tom Landry, the same thing in Dallas, starting off slowly. Joe Gibbs here in Washington, 0-5. If you hire the right guy, let them get their feet wet and show that they earned that position, and let's see what happens over the long haul.
The toughest challenge for the Eagles in the NFC would be who? I know.
You know what? I guess why am I taking so long? And it's not just because of what they did last night. I think the Detroit Lions will be the deal. The Lions, hey, Howard, I would love to hear your thoughts too. They showed me something going into Baltimore last night. They are a reflection of their head coach. And oh, by the way, after game number 1, the new defensive coordinator in Detroit was skewered by the pressure.
Yes.
Howard, it's one game, Howard. You wait to see how things shake out. What the team that I saw that performed last night, they showed me something. And you know what? When the tide turned their way, because they continued to play, because it was neck and neck from that point. A great game from a fan standpoint, but they showed me resilience, toughness, and a comeback mentality, and got it done. That's what's going to happen over the long haul. Howard, who would you say, sir? Tell me.
Okay, Detroit comes into the mix. They lose both everybody thought, they lost Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator. They lost the defensive coordinator.
Yep.
You know what? Players make plays.
Yeah.
And the mentality comes in many cases from the head coach.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell was different. He was breaking kneecaps, and all that other nonsense. He was doing all that. But who cares what he says? You got it. The players. Here's where I think a head coach wins over his players. You have respect for your players, and they really love you.
Yes.
And if you get both, they will go through that wall, and they're going through the wall for Dan Campbell. Now, I wouldn't have said Detroit. I would have said Green Bay until Cleveland beats them, and then I say, wait a minute, are you gonna? Is there a formula for love? I don't even know, but. Kevin Stefanski, actually, I texted with him briefly today, but I didn't get into particulars. But that was a big win for Cleveland. They were cooked if they didn't win that game.
Hey, so that defense for Cleveland, despite their record, has been playing. Myles Garrett is a beast.
Unbelievable.
They're feeding off of him. You talked about everything I heard you talk about when you mentioned Detroit. Hey, Howard, you're right. They get their oomph and determination and inspiration from the head coach, because after game number 1, going into game number 2 for Detroit, here was the punchline with Dan Campbell when he was talking to his team. He said, fellas, you all know that I love you, and we can get after all of the ridicule from the first game. He simply said, do you have my back like I have yours? That's all he needed to say, and they went out there. I understand it's the execution. I understand it's the play call and the adjustments. All of that comes into play. But, Howard, everything that you just said in talking about the motivation and encouragement that Dan Campbell is, that is real at this level. I won't call a team's name. Chances are, because of your context, you know who I'm talking about. But there was 2 teams this past weekend when the opponent went out on the field at the team's home field, because they had started 0-2 or whatever, the players could sense it. They said, you know what? These guys don't even look like they want to be here. We're talking about the 3rd game of the season.
I know.
Now that, and of course, they went on to win and smoke them, because it is about being motivated as well.
Okay, well, the other 2 teams, Green Bay, Detroit, Green Bay. Okay. I still think the Rams are a really good team, because they have a really good coach.
Yes, an exceedingly good coach. Go ahead, Howard.
Okay, so those are the 2. You kind of put them in the mix. Arizona's better, but not good enough. Yeah. And in the AFC, I love Andy Reid, but they're done. They're done. They're done. They can't generate enough on offense, and you lose a lot after you lose players because they go elsewhere after you win Super Bowls. But
and the kid with Kansas City, I mean, gosh, Rashee Rice is still out, being suspended, not until after week 6 when he comes back. Xavier Worthy, injured. Hey, look, the speed that they had before that frightened people, they don't have it. It's amazing they're still eking by as they are. Patrick Mahomes with his sizable influence and motivation of the team, and of course Chris Jones on the defensive end. But I hear you, Howard. They can't continue to be that because everybody is shooting after them as well too. If they don't get that kind of ammunition back on their side, it's going to be a tough season. We're going to be there this weekend. Kansas City hosting Baltimore. So that'll tell a lot.
Well, that's a big game. That's a big game for Baltimore.
Yes, it is.
I mean, people talked about them and I love John Harbaugh too, but their defense obviously just doesn't stop people. And that's a little bit Lamar Jackson's done great. Their offense has been terrific, but you got to stop people, and they're not doing it. All right. I want to touch on a couple of things with the Eagles, the tush push.
Yes, sir.
You know, and you probably talk. Why do I forget the name of your former head of officials who now works for CBS? Pereira. Is it Mike? Oh, Gene Cherator. It was Pereira. Yeah. What is Gene?
Yeah, Pereira with Fox. But go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It moved around.
Because I don't think Pereira. I don't think he's a big advocate for it. I don't think he particularly likes it. But go ahead.
Well, because the officials can't officiate it,
right?
And the fans get pissed off when I say, well, you know, nobody else can do it.
Yeah,
but you could see in the replays, and, you know, Nick Sirianni says, well, it's a split-second replay. Well, if it's a false start, it's a false start. I don't care if it's a split second or not. The officials can't officiate it, so I can't believe the former official likes that. Have you talked to him about the tush push at all?
You know what? And Gene he won't go out and speak negatively about it. Bill Cowher does not like it at all. I think that's the polite way I can say it. Hey, my attitude, you know what? If you don't like it, stop it somehow. You know, everybody was saying, well, there's no way that you can stop it. I guess there are those who know it much more so than me. But until such time, many think it's a rugby play. But you know what? Until you stop it, if they've got it legal, then you know what? Use it to your advantage.
James, you were around when there was a rule that you couldn't push a player who was carrying the football.
Absolutely.
For some reason, they eliminated that.
Yes.
And Jalen Hurts, forget about the offensive line. He's getting pushed. The tight end comes in. The running back comes in. I don't even know why they took that out of the rules. That really well, whatever the case, the tush push is going to last. I think it's done after this year.
Because there's too much opposition. And my only concern there is, so they're talking about the tush push and they can't stop it. They can't time it, et cetera, et cetera.
They can't officiate it. They can't officiate it. And I think that's why it's going to go.
You know what, Howard? That's a very good point. If you can't officiate it and there's a team that's enjoying a distinct advantage, there is probably an inherent issue with that. Thank you very much for driving it home to me for the third time. If you can't officiate it, no, that's a good point, Howard.
All right. So you mentioned the guy. First of all, before I mention the guys you work with, you brought up John Madden. John Madden he and Pat Summerall were legendary.
Yeah.
But John Madden, obviously, you got the video games and all the other Madden games and all that. What was it that you remember, whether it was, you talked about a little about his influence, about John Madden, that you will never forget?
Hopefully it's wrapped up in one. His passion for the game was palpable. He loved the game and was a guardian of the game. That was reflected in his enthusiasm. Number two, what I remember about him is Pat Summerall. Pat Summerall was the perfect host, co-host, whatever you want to call, because the original decision was between Vin Scully of baseball fame and Pat Summerall. Vin Scully is one of the all-time greats forever in baseball because he could tell stories, the yarn. So, and he was superb at it. But that would not have given John Madden the room to do what made him such a big personality. Pat Summerall gave him that room. Pat Summerall was one of the best wordsmiths ever in sport. John Madden can go bombastic talking about a turkey. I'll never forget this, a Thanksgiving game. They've got the turkey up there. John Madden is patting the turkey. He's rubbing it. He's caressing it. He's putting stuffing inside the groove and all of that. And Pat Summerall simply had a line to say, I think that turkey is pretty warm without going into the oven already. But that Pat
That's a great
Summerall
line.
was wonderful. So it was the pairing, and I want to give him his flowers because he was superb. But Madden truly protected the sport, loved the sport, passionate beyond days. And you know what? You would never, ever hear him really negatively criticize a guy. He would find a reason. If a play didn't work, while most people would probably criticize what wasn't done, he would give the credit to the offensive player, say, who maximized his advantage over that. Here's the closest that John Madden ever came to criticizing somebody. You remember this. Jim Everett, quarterback, right? Remember the phantom sack? Howard, you remember this. All Madden said simply was, with a lowered register in his voice, because you could feel his disappointment being a football purist. He simply said, you can't do that. You can't do that. That was as much as he said.
And the way he traveled was amazing. He never took a plane because he couldn't, after he coached football, he wouldn't get on a plane.
Hey, how lucky or blessed should all of us, I should say blessed. I know there's no luck from a faith standpoint. That's me. How blessed was he to be able, because he had that fear of flying, that they gave him a couple of buses. Hey, Dan Jiggins and I, when we broke in, we were the first all-black announce team to do a full season of NFL games. We said, look, give us a used school bus. We'll travel that way if that's what it takes. We'll try to go ahead and decorate it ourselves. But Madden made good use of that. One, he treated his professional chauffeurs like they were family. He treated them superbly with respect. And number two, he used those long trips to be totally immersed in having done all of his homework to know each and everything about every team and every player. When he got to that host city, he was ready.
Okay, working with somebody that works well with you is important, obviously, Summerall and Madden. But now, as in a studio show, how important is it for you guys to have you, Cower, Burleson, and Matt Ryan to have chemistry, and how good is that chemistry with those guys?
You know what? I forget how the expression went. Somebody said that you can't create chemistry. It happens. Hey, Howard, and again, it is who I am, so I'm not trying to come off any different than who I am. I consider myself exceedingly blessed to have been back, as you said, for 20 years in this chair. Forgive the vernacular. It ain't about me. It's about my colleagues. My attitude has really been based on a scripture found in Philippians 2:3, which says, in lowliness of mind, esteem others better than yourself. My job, as you clearly are demonstrating here with your grasp of the league and issues and the subtleties and all of that, is to make certain I have a good grasp on the big picture, the sidebar stories, and whatever the key for each game we're going into, to ask the right questions and elicit the best out of my colleagues who have been there, the great coaches or the great players, because they will help to set the table. Whether the fan base agrees with them or not, that's good too, but they will set the table for the viewers for a given game, for things to look out for as they watch. And I've been blessed to work with some excellent ones. My job is always to elicit the best and give them, like Pat Summerall, the room to do. If I'm looking down the dais, you've done this in local TV. If you've got guests there, they may be in my ear saying, JB, we got 15 seconds to commercial. Count you down to 10 so that you can lead to this commercial. If I look down the dais and I see one of my guys, say it's Matt Ryan, and his eyes go bug-eyed because he's got a point he wants to get in, he's hearing the producer say 8, 7. I'll look at Matt and say, what is it? And let him get those 5 seconds in. All I need to say is, back with more after this. Give them that time, because then they'll know I am a true teammate who's looking to make sure they look good and give it their best so that the audience goes into the game well prepared. Does that make sense, Howard?
Yes, it does. And when you talk about when you ask a question. Larry King, we all remember Larry King. Um, his talk show was carried on a radio station I worked before I went into TV. The first talk show I did for another FM station. And three keys to an interview. And athletes, I don't think, are the ones that they have to learn. I don't think there's enough work with some of these people. I had a woman that worked with me before I went into television. I never worked TV. She scared the living daylights out of me. She worked with a lot of CBS anchors, Mike Emmerich, who did the hockey. She worked with a lot of people. But what Larry King told me, first of all, you got to be real and natural. But what Larry King says, ask a question that doesn't require a yes or no answer.
Yep.
Ask a question and don't make a statement. Ask a question. Those are two of the most important things. But you got to ask a question that doesn't require a yes or a no answer.
Absolutely.
And if you make a statement, you've already, in today's world, I don't think enough of the reporters understand that either. And then you get the best. Let them answer the question.
Absolutely. And Howard, I know you know this, and I would add the third element to that. Listen to what they say.
Correct.
Because Larry King, he asked that question that did not require yes or no. He heard their response, and he was a naturally inquisitive guy. He would follow up with something that was relative to what they said to make it an interesting conversation. You are so right.
Okay, James, I loved it. I'll love it again, and I guarantee you, you're going to be on with me again. I can't get enough. We could go on for hours. It's so much fun. Fun. If you're not having fun, you're not trying hard enough. And I always try to have fun. And if I'm not, then there's something wrong. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll be talking to you soon. Thanks, James. Say hello to your boys on the show.
I sure will.
Great. All right. Hey, James, have a great night and a better day tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. James Brown, what a special guy. He really is a special guy. And I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as I did talking to James Brown. But I also, as I always do, want to thank so much our presenting sponsor, Stillwell Financial Advisors. Jeff Stillwell. He is sharp guy. I'm telling you, if you haven't made some kind of contact with him, if you want to try to take care of your financial future, I'm telling you, what are you waiting for? Jeff Stillwell, 732-343-0813. Also, less than a week to go. Maybe just about a week to go on this sale. The new 2025 Audi Q6, the e-tron, the electric cars at Audi Westchester are on sale. $499 a month for the Q6, and for the Audi Q4 e-tron, $399 a month. Great deals. You're not going to get them after this month. You will not get them. So don't hesitate. For the Q6, $5,295 down. For the Q4, $4,156 down, plus taxes and registration fees. Stop by Audi Westchester, get more details, have fun. 1421 Wilmington Pike. Special offer, as I just told you, and the inventory is not going to last long. The 2025 Q6 e-tron for $499 and the Audi Q4 e-tron for $399 a month. Check out AudiWestchester.com. And Piazza Property Pros. How about James Brown wants to get in touch with him? I'm going to pass along their number. And he'll drive them down and work down there and see if they can't do the Washington area. It's about a 2-hour drive, but, it depends on what James wants to do. But these people will do it right. Piazza Property Pros. Piazza Property Pros, 25 years of experience. They don't subcontract. The work's done by their skilled team, including excavation, hardscaping, fencing, landscaping, pool maintenance, build a pool. They can do it, and they can do a great job on time and within your budget. Call 610-566-2608 to schedule a free consultation. That's 610-566-2608, or visit piazzaoutdoor.com to learn more. Piazza will get it done for you. All right. There's some things. First of all, I want to take care of the winner of the Chickies and Pete's gift certificate from last week, Ray Fitzgerald. Congratulations, Ray. The question was, what um, what teams really were in a desperate situation this last weekend? Kansas City and Houston. Kansas City won. Houston lost. Houston's done. Houston's done. But nonetheless, Ray Fitzgerald was one of the people that answered that question correctly. And Ray, you win the Chickies and Pete's gift certificate. Now, what we're going to give away today, and I'll come up with the question shortly, is a Ryan Howard autographed baseball. When I ask the question, now submit your answer by midnight on Friday, September 26th to howardeskin.com. We'll announce it on the show Saturday, September 27th. And the show is at 8 a.m. We did the show tonight, Tuesday, and we're going to replay it on Wednesday. And you could see it all the time on YouTube anyway, because I wanted to fit it into James Brown's schedule. And I'm so glad I did, because he was really, really a great guest. You can watch it live on X, Twitter, whatever you want to still call it, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe to YouTube, and you'll be notified when the show comes up live, and you can watch it all the time. I'm going to show you this comment from Drew Brees. He now does once a week on ESPN. Obviously, he was asked about the Eagles offense. I can't stand to watch the Eagles offense. It's the most boring offense. Now fans are going to get pissed. They're going to get pissed at Drew Brees, but he tried to create a little bit of an outroar. And one thing I want to touch on, because people have made this an issue with Kevin Patullo, the offense changed from the first half to the second half. The reason it changed is because they were behind by so much and they had bad field position. But there was a shot on TV of what people said Jalen Hurts was arguing with his offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo. Let me play that comment really quickly.
When you look at just the sideline discussions in general, we all try to, as coaches, look through the pictures first, kind of communicate, and then it goes position group by position group. I always talk to Jalen first. We go through what we're seeing, kind of what happened out there, kind of foreshadowing what we want to do. And then, I usually talk to the receivers and talk to Saquon in the backs, and then work my way down and talk to the O-line. And so it's really important because they're the ones out there doing it, right? And so they give you really good information and feedback sometimes about what they're feeling, what's happening, how it's happening, and when it's happening. And ultimately, you want to put them in the best spot you can, right, for them to do their job.
There was a sequence on the sideline late in the third quarter where Jalen's like passionately talking to you and Jamal Singleton. What do you remember about that? The message he was trying to deliver?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, it wasn't really anything about anything that was a heated moment. I think it was just a play that had happened, and I don't even remember, to be honest, what we were talking about. And I know that was kind of been made a big deal, but it wasn't anything, that was a serious matter of any kind. In fact, like, Jalen and I have had really good discussions in general. If you watch those touchdown drives, and we've been driving the ball, like, him and I get very excited in general, both excited people and very competitive. So I think it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it wasn't any big deal. People made a big deal out of it. It wasn't any big deal. And before we leave you tonight, first of all, I hate to tie two of them together, but I didn't mention it earlier. Happy New Year to people of the Jewish faith. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to my family. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year. And change gears, and this is an awkward change, but I do want to mention maybe he was the nicest, kindest athlete I have ever met. And there's nobody nicer. I've met a lot of nice, kind athletes, and I should say there's nobody better than Bernie Perrant. We lost somebody really, 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 really special. Bernie Perrant was a gem. He was great with people, great with everybody. He just couldn't be nicer. It didn't matter who you were. Bernie Perrant was always he might have been the nicest. There's nobody better than Bernie Perrant. And we've lost a great, great, great person Forget about the hockey player. We know he was a great hockey player. We know how good he was as a goaltender. We know about the Stanley Cups. We know about all those things. But as a human being, I don't think you can say anything that's more special about a person than the person himself. And Bernie Perrant was that guy. Bernie, rest in peace. We will all miss you.